Hey, so this is the first SeerNova podcast live in a very long time because I just didn't feel like doing it. I have Caleb. He does a bunch of stuff, but yeah, introduce yourself.
Hey, yeah, so I'm Caleb Toussaint. I have done a large number of Kickstarters over the years, including Nook and Super Cats and Alter Life and all kinds of different stuff. I have a new issue of The Neverland on Kickstarter right now, kind of coming off the tails of Nook being released through Source Point Press over the summer, and issue three will be hitting here in August while our campaign's running as well. But yeah, trying to do something a little different, but I've never really done fantasy before. But this is kind of a throwback to 80s fantasy movies I grew up with, and a cool idea I came up with during the pandemic. So we can get into that. But it's a little intro for me.
Cool. There'll probably be another person that's joining, but I have no idea where he is or they are. I don't know who. I know they're Zed Comics, but I don't know like who is behind them. Um, yeah. So
It's
yeah.
Saturday, people get distracted.
How'd you come up with the whole Neverland idea, minus Peter Pan existing?
Yeah, so I had no idea of I wasn't gonna do anything with this. It was just something crazy that came up. I My son during the pandemic was watching a ton of he loved Peter Pan. He was like they go through phases where they just watch something over and over again, and then he started watching Jake and the Neverland Pirates, which was like a Disney Channel show for a while that was just kind of the play off of with the Lost Boys, and it's goofy, but just watching him get obsessed with that, and then we started reading I read the original novel to him. He's like way too young really to comprehend it because it's a lot darker and there's a lot of messed up stuff going on in the original Peter Pan. But I got like a whole new respect for all the ideas behind it, and then just watching my son grow up during the pandemic, all this stuff just gave me a crazy idea one night where it was like, what would Neverland be like now? And it was during the pandemic, so I thought, well, if my son escaped to Neverland tonight, would there be magic left on the island, or is the world kind of broken? And it was the idea of that never-ending story idea, where it's like there's like this darkness taking over your imagination. So it's very much inspired by like fantasy movies, like the never-ending story, Willow, where it's like that grand epic adventure where you're meeting new characters or familiar characters along the way. And so it's this kid who escapes to Neverland one night, and he finds that there's no magic, and he starts seeing familiar faces, and he's kind of strung along on this crazy quest to find Peter Pan and kind of just figure out how to make Neverland what it once was. It's I'm really excited about it because it was just one of those ideas that had no plan on doing. I had other stuff in the works, and then suddenly I just set everything aside, and I was inspired to write like 5 issues of this quickly. And when the idea takes over like that, it's just like, okay, I guess we're doing this, because if I'm that passionate about it, I think there'll be more people that want to read it. And I've had really good response with this first issue being at conventions and stuff, and I hope people will jump on board now that we're a couple issues in. So
Yeah. I just watched Willow for the first ever time like a year or something ago, and I was like, wow, it's a really long movie for like a kids. It's like 3 hours or whatever it is.
yeah, that's true. I feel like those fantasy movies, it's funny, they were made for kids in the 80s and early 90s, but it's like kids' attention spans now is just I can't see them sitting down and watching that without me. Like my son, I'd have to force him to sit down and watch Willow probably. But
Yeah, I can sit through like Lord of the Rings or whatever. Fine,
Yeah.
completely fine. I'm sitting through that, and it's not a bad movie. But I'm just like, this is still going on. Like, how long is this movie? And I like paused it, and it's like, oh, it's still got like an hour or something left. It's like, what? That's insane.
Yeah, so we did for issue 2. We actually did a Willow homage cover variant. So the first issue we did the like a never-ending story. I have the chrome cover version of it there, but we're actually doing every issue. We're going to try to do a different one. I think issue 3 is going to be actually Kroll is going to be the variant cover for that one. But we just try to play off that nostalgia, the stuff that I think if you liked those things growing up, you're going to appreciate this. And then it kind of, my idea was to kind of bring that type of story to a new generation, because I feel like I want to have like a cool fantasies thing for kids that has that depth to it, that when they get older and they read it again when they're older, they're going to find something in there that they might not have realized was there. Because especially like with Neverending Story, you watch that now and you're like, geez, I watched that as a kid. It's like kind of it's kind of a rough movie for a kid.
I know that the horse dies, but
it's a very metaphysical thing about the loss of a loss of imagination, basically. Like the darkness is taking over. As they call it, the nothing is like taking over all imagination.
I watched it like at my stepmom's house like a very long time ago. I don't know how old I was, maybe in elementary school or whatever. I did not watch all of it because I was like, this is kind of boring to me. I would watch it like if it was on something just to see it finally. But yeah, I know that the horse does die, and
it's a rough moment.
When it's like on memes or whatever, everybody's always just like, well, there's my scarred childhood. I just know that part. It's like the one part of the I guess you're the only guest for today because the other guy's connection is messed up or whatever. So.
Oh, well, cool.
Yeah. So I do have the first Neverland. I just haven't read it yet because this office is still being put together. I have to paint the room and do stuff. So,
dude, I get stacks of stuff from Kickstarter, and then I'm like feel bad because I just never get to it. And I try.
Yeah,
but, you backlog from like 2 years ago, I finally started sifting through, and I'm like, cool. And then it's like, I wonder if these guys are still making these comics at this point.
Yeah, before I moved to my house that I got, I put like a couple comics next to my bed. I'm like, these are the ones I will read before I like move. So I read all of them, and it was only like 4 or 5, but it was still like a goal that I did because I was like, I feel bad that I haven't read these yet. It was like broke down. It was like the last broke down For Dead Bodies comic, Dragonfly 1, and Dead End Moon. I think there's another one, but there's like so many. There's this giant there's like 2 boxes of just comics that I still have to read.
Yeah, I started making it more of a goal. I actually haven't been backing as many on Kickstarter just because it's been. I know a lot of people have financial times, but it's just I've been so sidetracked with everything. I'm working on Super Cat stuff for Scout Comics, and then trying to get things in order for this, and trying to do we're trying to do different things for the magazine Frontiers on Scout, and it's just between doing that and trying to keep the other stuff going, because I still want to have new books coming out, so I don't want to just solely be working on a Super Cats book that might come out in a year. I want to get new stuff out there, but it's weird kind of having like deadlines and stuff here from Scout Comics, and then trying to still do conventions while I'm trying to put out the new stuff. It's been a crazy year, really. Like actually having books on companies is great, but it also comes with like I want to help promote that stuff, even though it's 3 years old at this point for me. Like Nook, I did the first Nook 3 years ago, and now it's coming out again through Source Point. So it's like I still want to help them promote that by doing some signings and stuff too. But it's like, to me, I'm like, man, I've been done with that book for a while now. It's awesome that it's finding a new audience. Like I'm super happy that there's so many more people reading it. Like I just did a show last week where half the people that came up were like talking about Nook, and I'm like, this is weird. Like people know this book from me not just selling it on Kickstarter. It's just strange, but it's cool. So I don't know, like finally to see after doing it for I think it was 5.5, 6 years before this Supercats thing really clicked, and then to finally see Nook out, we'll see. I'm hoping that also helps gain some steam with this series. But it's one of those things that issue 1 always does really well, even for someone like Source Point, and then you get issue 2 and 3 are always less until you get that trade. So eventually we'll get there. My plan is to get these out as quickly as possible. So I think issue 3 will be early 2023, and then we'll do like spring and then summer or something like that. And
that's cool.
Hopefully by fall, by this time next year, we'll be doing the trade of the whole thing. That's the goal, at least. But
I still have to read Nook. That's one of the million things I have to read. So. Yeah. When I had my apartment like 2 years ago or whatever, I had shelves up, and that was one of the books that was basically on the shelf the entire time, just because it was cool, like cool cover.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Oh god, sorry.
I'm excited. Speaking of covers, like one of the coolest things about getting it on Source Point is that they did like their own covers for the single issues, and they're doing their own trade in October. Man, like that's like some of the coolest art that's come out for that series, and I'm just excited to like have those copies in my hands, because it's one of those things. I was kind of done with it, and I'm like, oh, I probably won't really do anything else with this. And then once it gets picked up, I get the new covers, and I get to see people get excited about it all over again. So it's been an interesting time to see that happen. It's just strange, because like I seriously it's one of those books that everybody comes back to me and says, oh, that was like one of your best things you did. But then I'm like, I'm already moving on. It just reminds you that you shouldn't forget about your books that you did like 3 years ago, because even like the market trends change. So everybody's making books like Nook now with that darker theme to it. So it made sense to like put it out there again for submissions and be like, hey, maybe you guys want this now, because now everybody's doing it. Like all the big writers and stuff are releasing these indie books that are very similar in tone. So it's just you kind of got to follow those trends and make sure you come back to the table with that, even that same stuff. Don't forget about it. You spent all that time on it,
Yeah.
It's cool to see your cat book doing well on Kickstarter too, man.
People like cats.
Well, you got sci-fi and cats.
Yeah.
Cats do well. Nook has a ghost cat, like I'd say ghost cat in World War II, and it's like an instant sell.
Yeah, when I wrote Mittens, it was literally like I think it was 2020 and not 2019. Like, because I kept saying 2019, and then I saw on my own Kickstarter that I was like, oh, it was 2020. So I'm gonna go with that, since I probably looked up the date or whatever when I actually wrote it. Yeah, I wrote all 3 of like the issues for the first plot arc in like
Nice.
2 weeks, maybe not even.
See, that's the best when that happens because
Yeah,
you're like,
it's
then
like
you're like kind of pumped about it, like.
yeah. And then now I'm getting more ideas just as we're doing this
Nice.
campaign, and that we're very close to the getting like the extra 3 pages, which is like an after credit scene, and it has a character
Nice.
that, like, is in the next issue. Well, he's in for like a while, but it's like this bounty hunter character, and he's he's a panda, and I like pandas a lot, so I really wanted to like have him in
Well,
at some point.
yeah, you'll have to let me know when you're launching more of them because maybe we can do some Super Cats
Oh yeah,
crossovers, man. We could do some kind of like Super Cats print with the characters mixed up, or we'll have to figure something out. But
yeah,
it's right there for the picking, man. Like, why not?
yeah. I got like I don't think I ever had. I've had people like message me and be like, "Can I draw for your comic?" And I'm like, I don't really have money to just pay you to do
Yeah.
but no, not right now. I already got people. And then, but there's some girl that messaged me that wanted to do a cover because her cat died like a year ago or whatever. I was like, oh, that sucks, but I don't have money to like pay you. And then we don't really want to do another cover or something because we
Yeah,
didn't
like,
know how much money we were going to get from the Kickstarter at that time. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, I'm like, you could do it for the second issue. And she's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, yeah, because then there was another person that wanted to do a cover. I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, that's awesome, man. That's the best. That's that. I had that happen with the Fly Trap. Was like one of the first ones that I had. I actually had a person that got my books to sell in their store reached out to me. That's where one of the covers came from because he knew Joe St. Pierre, who's done all kinds of Spider-Man and Spider Family covers, and he was like, "If you want to do a shop exclusive, man, I'll like put the bill for you." And well, yeah, so like he got Joe St. Pierre to do the cover, and all I was in it was like to print copies that he would buy from. Like wasn't really in it. Like he bought the covers, like at cost, or I gave him a good deal on them. But he, you know, got Joe St. Pierre to do the cover, and I was just like, that's crazy, man. Like, why would I say no to that? Sure, like it's more of a pain because you got to deal with printing an extra cover and shipping things. But I was like, dude, I get like a name tied to the campaign without really having to do anything.
That's cool.
It's just like, all right, let's do that.
Yeah, Mittens was the first Kickstarter that I've done that was like not so crazy with like rewards. Our highest tier is 65. Well, our highest tier was $65. Like once we hit a certain stretch goal, it will be 125. But that's for a special stretch goal.
Yeah.
But we wanted to do like simple things. We did because for Chronicles of Horror 2, which is completely different. I was given like this figurine thing to people, which I still have to get made because of money, and we didn't factor in that math. And
dude, I've been there with. I did that with Nook with the figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the person I was going through to do it, it's $300, and it's for 10 molds. Like it's for 10 of them, and you have to get the 10. So that's why it's $300. And I was like, oh, that's annoying. Cool. Like, yeah.
Ouch.
Like, my business partner Dylan's supposed to put the 3D printer that he has together so we can actually like print stuff through that, because that'd be just way easier, I think.
Oh yeah.
Because he would have that. He kind of like an engineer, so he can kind of like help with that kind of stuff, just so I don't have to do it. Then he can just ship them. But,
yeah. I want to do more figurine stuff too, but it's like, yeah, you got to have somebody. I don't want to learn a whole other thing, so it's like,
yeah,
I'll help a 3D print guy deal with. I actually had someone bring this guy a table next to it. A show did 3D prints of like masks and miniatures and stuff, and then he just he like had me send him a couple pictures. He's like, oh, I'll work up some models for you and then I'll send you the files and you can use them if you want to print them. Well, saw him at another show and he just brought me like a Nook Girl Ghost and like a Super Cat. And I was like, dude. And I was like, I will pay you to make more of these so that I can sell them because it looks like a little vinyl figure, but it's just 3D printed and he painted on it. And I'm just like, man, he's telling me how cheap it is to actually do the 3D print version just with materials and stuff. It's just the time suck really for printing. So if you can do 3D printing, I think that's the way to go because we did molds for, I'll show you, we did molds for this Nook figure, and Marcelo, the artist, actually did, like, he designed it and he made the molds, and then we did I think 15 of them or something for backers. I felt so bad because these took so long for us to finish because he was still doing the book, and I'm asking him to make figures and crap too, and I'm like, yeah, you guys will get those eventually. And it was like months later that we finally shipped these, but they're cool. But it's like, man, I don't know. Like, if now you could just 3D print that and paint the eyes, and it would be like so much easier.
Yeah, I have to still get that out to like the 3 or 4 people that actually got the figure.
Oh, that's frustrating. So you sold like 4, but you needed.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't think that many people would want this. It's literally the Gravedigger character, but I'm just like, we have to actually make this.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna think about doing something like that for Neverland towards that. Maybe do like our weird dark Tinkerbell or something as a print or something, but I don't know. It's all I try to keep just like you with your new one. It's like keep it as simple as possible, and I usually am. That just involves me with doing like cool prints and stuff when it comes with. There's something that you can just throw in with the same package, and you're not trying to make some big box that it's going to add shipping and it's going to add material to shipping, and it just becomes a monster that way.
We have, I think basically everything is really small. You got the comic, and then the print is 5x7. I said to Josh, that's the artist, I'm like, I'm never doing a bigger print ever again. Because
I made that mistake.
For Chronicles of Horror, we did 3 prints, and I don't know, there was more than 3, but there was like 2 or 3 of them that were like 11x17. Oh, I think it was 2 of them that were 11x17. So I had to get the actual like print envelope thing. So I'm like, I did that. I think I did that once or twice, and I was like, man, this is a huge pain. And then I was like, from then on, it was like anything that is whatever book I'm selling, it'll be the size of that book or smaller so that I can just tuck it in and it's safe and ready to go. Yeah.
I even did that with, let me see if I can find one right here. I'm going to do like a series of these. So there'll be the same artist is going to do a different one for every issue. But we did the Hook and Smee, and then the issue 2 is going to be Tinkerbell, but it's like I printed on like heavy duty, like cardboard, like postcard stock, but it came out really nice, and it's like you can just tuck that guy right inside the book, and you don't have to worry about ruining it. And there's it's a size that you can get like a frame or something for a big box store, but. I was like, man, honestly, like, how much wall space do you have anyway? If we do a series of these and there's like 4 or 5 of them, and then you can kind of just like make a little cool collage of them if you want to, then it's not like it's taking something. What are you going to do with 5 things that are like massive size? You're not going to want that taking up your whole wall, but that's at least you could do something with,
Yeah, because I already, when I redo my office, and painting stuff, our logo is going to be behind me, and the desk is going to be moved closer to the wall that way, towards the window. And I might put shelves up or something, but I'm going to put like the comics that I've made up on the wall.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I have to put other stuff on the other walls, and it's not like anybody's going to really see that, but I will.
Yeah. I try to. I used to put like stuff that inspired me on my walls, but now it's like I feel like I should put the things that I've spent the past 7 years working on, so that I can remind myself that I did that stuff. So I usually it's like art prints or like the original watercolors. I love when an artist does a print for you, but then sends you the originals. I've gotten a couple of those, and I just
Finally getting that.
that stuff's framed for sure. I actually got the Willow cover. Let me show you one more thing, because this is the digital file did not do it justice really, because he just did a digital scan. But I got this the other day, and it's just like, you know, watercolor paint. It's sick, man. It's awesome, and that is definitely going up somewhere in this office, because I wish I had that with Stan Yax, but he just does digital, so it's awesome. But it's like, man, I wish I had a nice, pretty watercolor for that to put up too. But I'm sure now everyone's gonna be like, how much for that on one of your tiers? And I'm like, $1,000 right now. There you go.
Yeah, our artist for ink and scales, he just moved to his house, Adam Fields, his new house. And
I've done shows with him. He actually just moved up into my area.
oh, that's cool. Yeah, his house looks cool from like the video that he's done and just pictures seeing the outside. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Looks
Yeah,
better
I'm
than
sure I'm gonna run into him at like everything I do now. So
yeah. So he sent me a message a while, like a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "Do you want the original art for like ink and scales?" It's like, "Oh, that would be cool." He's like,
yes,
"Yeah,
please."
just pick like one page," and I usually send like one page or whatever to people. And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I'm getting one from each comic, and he's like, "Yeah, it's gonna be like every comic thing now." I was like, "That's cool."
That's awesome, man.
Like, I'm framing that shit. That's going on the wall.
Yeah. All the artists I've worked with with their pages though, it's all been digital for me. So it's like to get at least I get some cover stuff. I've gotten some stuff like from Corinne Roberts. She did a print for me for Super Cats for the Halloween Super Cats, and I got that in watercolor. It's like those things are so cool, and the fact that the artists are willing to just like, yeah, I'll throw that, like, okay, he charged me like less than a normal guy would for just a digital cover, and I also get the watercolor. It's like, man, you gotta love those artists that are still doing it traditionally, but you know, and giving you the cool stuff on the back end there. So that's exciting to get original pages, man.
I've never got those yet, so I was like, that's awesome. Cool. Well, I will share your Kickstarter real quick, and then
We're doing good. I think we're over 65%, and we still got 18 days, 101 backers. So I'm doing some more events and things in the next few weeks to help promote, and I'll actually be at a shop in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on the 24th, which is the final day, kind of doing like a release of the issue 3 of Nook and the final day of this campaign with them. New Dimensions Comics. They're the guys that run Three Rivers Comic-Con, which is a pretty big show. Yeah, awesome. They're always a good show.
We still have to do Comic-Cons. We have not been to one yet to actually like table.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we definitely still have to do that. We were going to in 2020, and then stuff happened.
I had almost 20 shows booked for that year, and it was going to be like I was going to hit the ground running and just promote the crap out of all my stuff. And I think everyone had big plans that year, and it was like the world said, "No, you don't."
Yeah, we were telling our like platform of creators that we have, we're like, hey, so we're gonna start doing Comic-Con. So if you guys like want to like sell your books, and then we sell them, and
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
and then they're like, cool, and then March 2020.
God. Yeah.
We're like, we're not doing that this year. We got.
We're all still picking up the pieces from that year, man. It's taken a while.
Yeah.
So, I'll say at the very least, I got this Neverland series out of it, because I would have never thought of this idea without it. So
that's good.
And it looks awesome. Marcelo is just like, he ups his game every time we do another book. We're challenging each other with what we're doing here. It's like he wants me to do more, bring more to the table, bring more action, do all that stuff. His double page spread I always show off. It's awesome. But,
that's so cool.
yeah. I basically call it, I tell people at shows, it's like Hook meets the Neverending Story. So you get that. It's got some humor to it, and it's still some fun fantasy for kids, but as an older reader, you're going to get a lot more out of it.
Yeah.
And Carrie Arnold, she's in Ohio too. She's done some stuff with me. She did that print. That's for week 1 backers only. So it's like, if you don't back by tomorrow, you're not going to get that cool print.
Yeah, so everybody has to back. International backers.
Yeah. That's my new thing I've put on the past 2 campaigns. It's just it's easier for me to just tell them to buy digital, and I'll always have people that still reach out and ask to pay the shipping, but man, it's too much of a gamble these days for me. Like, I can't spend $50 sending a single issue comic to Australia or whatever. It's just ridiculous. So
yeah. So I've
been burned by that many times before. So
we've never had a backer for any Kickstarter that I've done. I think this is the 5th Kickstarter, 6th one. I've never had one backer that was physical from Australia. We have 3 from this one. And I was like, oh, all right.
You're talking, I can tell you right now, you're talking between, depending on how much stuff's going in that, you're talking between 35. I think 35 is low end, and like 55 is probably, yeah. It's going to be like $50 to ship that.
Yeah, I just did international was 20. And I was like, wow, I'm surprised like nobody has like complained that it's $20 for shipping. And then Josh's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, we got Australia. I don't know.
And hopefully it balances out a little bit for you with selling other stuff. And
yeah,
but
I think it will.
I've just gotten to the point where it's like, I know I've had people buy my stuff like ongoing from Australia. And I'm like, it's great, but I don't feel right charging you $40 to ship a $5 comic book.
Yeah.
It just isn't like, it's crazy. Like, I'll put the international shipping bag on when I sell the trade. And then, because to me, like, if you're going to spend $30 shipping a trade, then maybe that makes a little more sense. But to ship a single comic book is just, it's more of a pain for all of us than it's worth.
Yeah,
but regardless, I always have people reach out and they're like, "Oh, I'll still pay the $60 it's going to cost me to get this bundle," and I'm just like, "All right, if you want to." Like, the problem is I don't want that factor. The reason I kind of removed it from my Kickstarter is I don't really want it factored in to my funding goal, because then it kind of skews everything, right? Because then you're like, oh, there's like 5 backers from Australia, and they're all $50 a piece to ship. Well, then I'm getting $250, but it's not towards anything of substance. It's like, it's all going to ship these 5 packages. It's like, that's not helping my goal, really. That's going to hurt me. So
yeah, we have 3 Australia
Australian backers, and we got one from New Zealand. I've never had anybody.
Oh,
from New
nice.
Zealand. I was like, oh, sweet, like some hobbit just back there. Crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I always get.
It's good to have international people, though, man. It's like it's exciting that people are finding your stuff.
But I did get one back for Seer Chronicles 2, and that kind of annoyed me because I sent that in April or May, and I just got it like a week ago.
Dude, that's the other thing. I've lost stuff going to Germany and Belgium, and then I hear from the person, they're like, I never got my package.
Yep.
I'm like,
it's annoying.
Well, then it shows up at my door 2 months later, and it's like, what am I supposed? Then I feel bad. So I've actually had people like, oh, I'll pay again, or I'll pay half the shipping or something if you can cover half of it. And I'm like, okay, well, let's try it. Customs is weird these days. That's the other mess of 2020 is dealing with the mess of getting stuff to other places. It's just it's a problem. But
it's one of the reasons why I almost said no to just international shipping in general.
Yeah.
But
it probably hinders my campaign a bit to not have that in there. But like I that's why I put that thing in there. It's like if you want to read it, you can get it digitally. It's going to be cheaper for you, more cost effective. If you're a collector, just contact me and we'll work something out. But I don't want a mad rush from New Zealand buying Neverland. I don't know if that would happen.
Everybody that lives in New Zealand is like, hey.
They all really love Peter Pan, so you got to be careful.
Yeah. The one that I just got back though for Seer Chronicles Kickstarter was from Spain, and I'm like, how did this not get there? Like, and that guy backs every single thing that we make. So I'm just like, that's annoying. But I think he backed our horror thing, so. I'm like, how did he know? Oh, no. That is in there. I think that book is in there, too. So
that's so frustrating. And then you feel bad because it's like, is this guy going to not want to
there
back anymore? It'll all work out.
Yeah.
Most people are understanding because shipping is ridiculous these days. But
you can't ship to like Ukraine because things are happening there. So
are people buying stuff on Kickstarter?
It's like, I know my life is pretty shitty right now, but I would really like the comic book.
It's like all I want. I
could just go to Neverland instead of being.
If I could just read this book, but I have to have the physical copy. I can't read it on my computer.
I can't read it digitally because they shut the internet down. Oh yeah, I think they like turn that off, so they can't really do that anyway.
That's crazy. Oh man.
Well, where can people find you?
Well, people can find me here. Well, this is the link that'll send you to the Kickstarter, right? But all my stuff's at villagecomicbooks.com. You can find me in your local comic shop these days. If you go and look for Nook or Super Cats, you might find stuff there too. So, yeah, but all my stuff's available on my website, and everything's slightly discounted during the Neverland campaign too. So if you back through there, you'll get stuff for better prices right now. So
cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, and yeah,
for sure.
This was SeerNova Podcast Live, first one in like forever.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Good luck on the rest of your campaign too, man.
Thanks. I'm gonna look at it again to see.
Yeah. go watch those numbers not move for a while.
All right.
That's what we do.